Hello? Anybody out there? There's somebody. Back outside today, chilling in the hammock, answering questions if you guys have any questions, or just going over stuff that I've learned that you might be interested in. Hey, Layla. Put a few items there in the chat to just kind of get things started, things you guys might have questions about. Otherwise, I'm here to answer anything that's on your mind or just talk if you want to catch up. Hello, hello. Let's see, is Bulldog Nation, is that Alexis? I'm trying to remember all these usernames. Dawson, I did look into a few of them. I think me and my son are probably going to get one of the most recent Call of Duty game here pretty soon. But right now I've just been playing mobile games. He got me addicted to the newest NBA Live on mobile, and that's what I've been playing most of the time. But I did look into all of them, including the Animal Crossing and all that other nonsense that you guys had suggested last time. More of a first-person shooter and sports games guy, though, if I'm being honest. So, again, put a couple of things there at the start of the chat. Maybe you can see them. I hope you can. They, of course, extended the school closures until April 27th at the earliest. That's very subjective, could be extended past that, if honest, you want my honest opinion. Next week is your spring break week, and it will be a true spring break. Nobody will be assigning you work, so you get that time to kind of relax and catch your breath from all this. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of stuff we can go out and do right now, but at least you'll have some extra free time. Doom Eternal, is that an extension of the Doom series I would have grown up knowing about? Monsters, kind of first-person shooter style. I'm guessing it probably is. I played the original Doom and the game it was kind of based on, which was Castle Wolfenstein. And those were the like 8-bit style ones where it was just like running down a hallway and would make you sick from all the camera motion. The good old days of gaming. I'm sure this one has much better graphics and probably a whole lot of other stuff going on with some kind of multiplayer and everything else that the new ones have, but I'll check it out and see what it's about. So those of you that are here, how do you think these first 2 weeks of distance learning have gone? Is this something that you would prefer to normal school days, or are you kind of over it? And then a follow-up question to that, if this is something that you actually do kind of like, what are some things that we could do to make it better? Because the time after spring break is really up in the air right now as far as what type of work we assign to you. So we can obviously keep doing what we're doing now. The county's designed some choice boards that they're going to put out there as a paper and pencil version of work. And then, of course, we could do some different things based on feedback. But, you know, what do you guys think, and what would you like to see moving forward? Wow. So I love that comment from Kinsley. Learning is good. It actually breaks up the boredom. So what a role reversal we have seen here, because normally you guys would say that school is boring. I know not all of you would, but a lot of people would. So now school is the thing that breaks up the boredom at home. Christian, kind of the reverse of that. He thinks that it's more boring than the normal school day. And I'm betting that has something to do with the interactions between people, and that those are the things that make it less boring when we're actually at school. Yeah, Dawson, I like that aspect of it too. You can multitask. I mean, I can have three or four things going on at the same time in my pajamas if I want to. So that's kind of neat. Most of the feedback I've received, and I mean, you guys could just be, overly positive because you're talking to me about it, is that people do like the CK12 lessons. They're time wise, they're about the right amount of time to spend on a topic, and you guys are doing really well with them in terms of the grades that are getting submitted. So I've not seen a lot of negative feedback. I'm going to try to put together a Google form to get some actual written feedback from you on what you'd like to see moving forward. The reality is, we know, of course, through April 27th that this is what we're going to be doing. So that's 2 more weeks after spring break, or maybe 3 more weeks. And then it could go longer than that, guys, if I'm just being honest. I updated the numbers that were in my Google Sheets document that was about the cases in Georgia. And if you checked it today, the Georgia cases are now up over 2,000. Of course, nationally, the United States has passed China for the most cases of the virus overall. So I don't see that trend necessarily reversing itself. I would say that we're going to see more cases in the days that follow. Hey, Giselle. It is crazy, Luke. I mean, all of this is crazy, if I'm being honest. I don't know that I necessarily believe the numbers that China is reporting. Some people think that they are basically lying and not telling us the real number that they have. I kind of find myself believing that a little bit as well. But regardless, to have went from where we were at 10 cases when this first showed up on U.S. soil to now being the worldwide leader in cases is a dramatic change. Yeah, so 6 weeks would be the total time we've missed if it doesn't get extended, Dawson. That sounds about right. So basically, like, half of a grading period. Speaking of which, you guys may be wondering, like, what will report card grades look like for the end of the year? I don't have an exact answer on that. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked at this point if you did not get a final 12 weeks grade, and it would be based on what you've done in the first two grading periods. Let's see, Kinsley, I thought about that just the other day, actually. I'm curious to know what we will do to try to either simulate awards day, or do something online that would be kind of equivalent to it. I will push from my end to make sure that we do something to recognize those of you that have done things this year. To not do that is kind of a sad end to the school year, if you ask me. Layla, I think that's what a lot of people are at this point believing. Alabama just canceled their school for the rest of the year yesterday. They have way fewer cases than we do. Governor Kemp went on a town hall meeting last night that was actually televised on most of the Georgia broadcast networks. And he's trying everything he can to not shut down the state. And if you've looked at the numbers that are showing up with regards to unemployment, you'll understand why he's doing that. But I think at this point, school is kind of a secondary concern, and they're more worried about our safety than they are our test scores, obviously. So it would not shock me at all if sadly, if we didn't go back another day this year. Now, again, I don't know that. I'm not saying that I have any insider info. All I know is that we're out through April 27th at this point. Luke, are you asking me to make a Minecraft server? I do not know how to do that. I could probably recruit my son to help, but um, I have no idea how to make a Minecraft server. Oh, now I see what you guys are saying. So they simulated the graduation in the game of Minecraft. That is pretty amazing. I mean, I love the creativity. I have no idea if that would be something that Miss Sloan would go for, but I can mention it as an idea that you guys came up with. Otherwise, I could guess that we might do something kind of streaming it like we're doing right here, or maybe a limited number of people were presenting awards online. Um, again, I think that's a way that we end every school year, and not to do it would be kind of a sad way to end your eighth grade year, and I don't want to see that happen. But best case scenario, we go back to school for a little bit in May, and we can have kind of a normal end of the year. I don't know that we can predict that at this point. Yeah, you guys, I'm sure, would be dressed up in all kinds of crazy skins and costumes if we did it on a Minecraft server, which to me would be amazing. I would love to see that. I think that'd be hilarious. So I know a lot of you have younger brothers and sisters at home that you hopefully are helping out a little bit, and most of their work has been on those choice boards that came from the elementary school. We actually have some of those that are being created for the middle school content areas. What do you guys think about the choice boards? Is that the type of work that you would like to see coming your way, or is that something that you think is more for the elementary kids? Also, as far as the streaming options available to us, um, Zoom, which I know several of you did that with Miss Nix the other day, the the guy that's in charge of our internet and safety and networking for the county has kind of asked us to steer clear of Zoom. I don't know that we can use it moving forward, but there is a version of that that is done through Hangouts that we can try. And if that's something you guys liked doing, we could do that again through the other program. Okay, so you guys are saying you actually would prefer the online work. That's kind of what I thought, based on the feedback I've gotten so far. And then, really, if it were me in your shoes, that's the type of work I would prefer as well. Some of those choice board assignments are not necessarily more difficult, but just kind of, I hate to use the word busy work to describe them, but kind of just assignments for the sake of having something to do. Now, not really necessarily learning anything. Well, so one of the things, if we do continue to deliver things through these online lessons, that I have to figure out this next week, we do have some content that we've not yet covered, especially in science. Do you guys want me to go ahead and introduce new stuff? Everything we've done so far has been review material. I know we talked about this like the first week we were out with the people that were here, but would you guys like to go ahead and do the remaining topics just so you get some closure on what the school year should have been? I'd probably have to add some additional support to that as far as either some video lessons or some extra content that I can find that would help. And the reason I'm asking you is, at this point, it is kind of tailoring things to what you guys want. I want you to feel like you're prepared to go into the high school year next year, hopefully in August. And in the case of science, with physical science, you will never have another physical science class. So if you don't get it this year, it won't hurt you moving forward, but you just never will get it, which is kind of weird, but that's the reality. You'll still get your credit. We talked about that last time, as long as your grades are good, which everybody looks like they're in good shape on their grades. I checked that just the other day. Um, in math, we really just had the one little remaining part about angle relationships where we had started working on before we were out. But in science, it's quite a bit more that we would still need to get into. Yeah, Layla, that's my fear as well, is that it will be really, really difficult to try to give you new material without that face to face interaction. Luke, I think we're learning that about all of this is that there are different ways to teach, different ways to learn. And I don't know if school will ever be exactly the same as it was when we come back from this. We may see a lot more of these distance learning techniques used kind of in everyday teaching. I'm not saying you'll get to stay home every day because that's probably not going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me to see things kind of shift. What are some of the observations you guys have made as you've, I'm sure, probably been out and about a little bit? Are people staying home where you live? Are they still going out just like they normally would? I know here in Chatsworth, for whatever reason, people are choosing to ignore the social distancing and the stay at home orders and really just kind of going about their lives like they normally would, which is a scary thing to think about. Are y'all seeing the same thing, or are people being a little bit more serious about it? Well, Christian, that's good to hear that your neighborhood is taking it seriously. I'm not sure what yeet means. I don't know if that's something that can be described in words, but I'm assuming it means that they're out just kind of playing and goofing around in groups. And that's what we're seeing over here in Chatsworth. A lot of kids are still going to like playground areas and things like that, which seems absolutely crazy to me, risky at the very least. I know anytime I've been out, which has been very, very few times, I've actually started to wear gloves, and I have a mask that I can put on if it's a crowded area that I keep in the vehicle. Dawson was ready for that weeks ago. He came to school on Friday with his quarantine gear. I think going out for walks is perfectly fine as long as you try to keep yourself distanced from your neighbors. Playgrounds and things like that, I feel a little bit differently about. One of the things that people are pushing for as far as the closures is that the state would go ahead and close some of these national park areas. I'm not sure that's the best course of action, but that would obviously keep people from going to them. We actually have places here in Chatsworth that they're still allowing you to go in and eat in the restaurant, which is absolutely wild to me. Andy, what's your sleep schedule look like, man? What time you going to bed? I'll admit that my kids have been staying up to like 10, 11 o'clock at night, which for them is pretty late. 3 a.m., man. Yes. That is that is living the good life. Research says that at your age you still need 10 hours of sleep too. So if you go to bed at 3 a.m., think about what time that means you're supposed to be waking up. So basically all of you are zombies then. Nobody's going to bed before midnight. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. That is a Beastie Boys song from the 80s, one of the classics. Yeah, you talking about your neck. I don't know if you're actually saying that it's been hurting you, but my neck personally has been extremely sore. And what I'm learning about that is that's a psychological response. That's where I hold my stress. So I'm sure you guys are probably stressed out from all this stuff as well. So you may be noticing that one of your body parts aches a little bit more than normal, and that's basically where you accumulate your stress. Some people's shoulders is where they accumulate their stress. Others are neck. Some people lower back. So that's a little bit of a science experiment that you're doing on yourself. Shows you how powerful our brains are also. So I don't know if you guys have noticed on the New Hope Facebook page. I don't even know if you check on Facebook, but Miss Shepard's keeping that updated daily. And this week was, of course, the wellness week or the fitness week. So Coach Sale had posted several videos of some like PE routines. What have you been doing daily to try to incorporate a little bit of physical activity? Hopefully the answer is something and not nothing. I know several of you said you were walking a little bit, so that's at least something. Andy is nothing based on that response. Climbing out of bed, sounds like. Hey, Christian, my kids actually got a trampoline put up out of this as well. Well, they had their grandparents had bought them one, and me being the greatest dad of all time had not put it together for 3 years. So they actually got me to put the trampoline up over the weekend. So they've been jumping on theirs also. Andy's trying to explain himself now. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, while he offers his explanation, I'll actually show you ours. They're trying now to get me to add a basketball goal attachment to the top. I guess that's something that you can get. They showed it to me on Amazon, but they have been wearing that trampoline out every afternoon. And I will admit, as an old man, getting on a trampoline is not as fun as it used to be when I was younger. So Andy got put to work then. That's even better. That's physical activity. That counts. 4 hours of doing gravel work is probably more than most people have done. Well, if she's got some health factors to consider, then Layla, you probably are better off not going out and risking it. But I think at least at this point where we're at, not being in kind of the epicenters like New York, we're safe to be outside a little bit. If you live in a smaller neighborhood or out in the country, then you can really get out and do a whole lot more. I mean, I know some of my family members live kind of on farmland and they've been out on their four wheelers and doing stuff like that. Christian, I think you're supposed to have a net. That's safety, man. You got to be safe on those trampolines. Don't be getting hurt. We didn't have one with a net growing up. Ours was netless, and many times we went through the springs and off the sides. Pulled it up next to the swimming pool and jumped off of it into the swimming pool. All those good things. One thing to share out with you, we had a faculty meeting yesterday in a Google Hangout, which was a very interesting experience. Mr. Harrison wore full tank commander gear on his camera for his picture that was up. And I actually put on a shirt and tie to do the sportscaster thing where they're not wearing like full clothing. They just do the tops, but you can only see that on camera. But anyways, We talked about several things related to the school, of course, and how things were going to be after spring break. But we did discuss the reality that spring sports at this point are basically canceled. I think most of you probably could have figured that out already, but there's just not going to be a way to come back in May and really finish or do anything that would be considered a season for baseball, soccer, the end of track. I hate that for you, and I know a lot of you are involved with stuff, but basically over. Mr. Shields actually had shared that they were having a GHSA meeting to talk about the high school sports today. So I don't know what was said during that meeting. I've not talked to him since, but I would expect them to probably be doing the same thing unless they decide to move those sports to the beginning of next year. Yeah, it is sad. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially seniors and things like that in high school, that are missing out on their senior season. I mean, that's just something that they'll never get back. You know, the colleges were given a little bit more flexibility. They gave an additional year of eligibility to their kids that were missing out on their activities. But with high school, they can't really do that. So one of the sadder impacts from all of this. Well, coming up on the 30-minute mark, and I'll stay a little bit longer if you guys want to chat or talk about anything, but is there anything in particular you wanted to ask, either about assignments, stuff going on at the school, anything like that that you want to know an answer to while you got me here? My dog is out here on the deck chasing bumblebees. Or alternatively, is there anything you want me to look to add to our assignments when we come back from spring break? And that would include things that I might could share with Miss Nix as well. I talked to her a little bit about kind of the plan for language arts and social studies, and I believe she still intends on posting assignments and not necessarily using the choice boards. But if there's anything you want me to share with her, I'll be glad to pass it on. Okay, so Newton's third law, that was what was posted today. What part of it do you not understand, Andy? Because, I mean, really the biggest component to it is that for every action force, there's an equal and opposite reaction force. But I will admit I didn't go through every single practice question that was there in the CK12 lesson. So if there's something in particular you want me to help with, I'll be glad to help. Doggos are awesome. You know, we got ours back at the start of the school year. My kids had been asking for a puppy for a long time, and I had not had one, and I forgot how great it is to have a dog. And dogs are loving this quarantine because all their peoples are back home with them. They love it. They're pack animals. And like I say, Andy, if you can give me a little bit more detail what you need help with, I'll be glad to help. Well, okay, so the equal and opposite reaction forces don't necessarily cancel each other out. Sometimes motion is created as a result of those equal and opposite reaction forces. I think you're thinking of them as two interacting forces, kind of like balanced and unbalanced. But like, for example, when we talk about being able to push your foot off the ground and make yourself propel forward on a skateboard, that's equal and opposite reaction forces. That's Newton's third law. And the end result is that you on the skateboard are propelled forward. So it doesn't always result in canceling out. Again, kind of talking about two different things here. You did have the balanced and unbalanced forces come up in a lesson earlier this week, but you're not necessarily resulting in a zero sum situation. You can have motion. And it is sort of a case by case basis. There are times when you will have no motion and other times when you will have it. I know that's not the most clear answer and that may add to your confusion, but what you're explaining to me is kind of the nature of the beast as far as how it works. And also there's typically more than just two forces involved, so you have to factor in that there may be a third force that would be creating forward movement as well. All the little memes of the cats and the pups. That particular dog is the one that I think is being used out of Japan for a lot of their videos and memes. Is it Doge? Yeah, listen, hey, I'm on the total anti IXL boat. I will admit that having assigned it to you guys throughout the year, I now regret that wholeheartedly. And the reason I'm saying that is because my son, who's in sixth grade, a lot of his work has been IXL work. And the trip to get from 0 to 90 on a lesson is typically not that hard. But to go from a 90 to a 100 usually means you have to get like maybe 10 questions in a row correct. And then if you miss one, of course, you drop back down like, 7 or 8 points, and then you only earn back two. And I know you guys have complained about that all year. I don't think I fully understood how frustrating that is until I watched my son break down in tears doing it himself. So you have made me a supporter of your stance, and I will never, ever, ever force a kid to get to 100 on an IXL lesson, ever. And I think Miss Nix feels the same way about it. Yeah, IXL has become a dirty word in our household. My wife cannot stand it. She nearly broke a laptop helping Eli with it the other night. I will admit that I did laugh a little bit, but then she gave me one of those death stares. My son and I have made a deal that if he will get to a 90 on his IXL lessons, I will finish them for him. So basically, if he can get to a 90, he passes the computer off to me and I will get him the last 10 points. The penalty for missing at that point is just way too severe. And again, I did not realize how frustrating it was until I watched him have to do it for several days in a row here at the house. And I'm a convert now. So you guys converted me to the cause. Speaking of hand sanitizer, I know most of you guys are closer to it than I would be, but the Dalton Distillery has actually switched over from producing alcohol to making hand sanitizer. And if you need hand sanitizer in Dalton, you can go downtown. I think right now you have to bring in your own bottles, but they will fill it up for you with hand sanitizer that they're making. Well, Andy, that's you being a perfectionist, buddy. So that's your own choice, though. And I know a lot of people that feel the same way as you, so I get it. Got to finish it, got to be complete. Yeah, Luke, I've noticed a lot of people doing that. And of course, I usually try to give you guys the option of a stopping point that's less than 100. Um, but I now understand better than ever how frustrating those lessons can get. I would encourage you, honestly, despite any assignments that we post, and I mean, I obviously want you to do our work and you need to, but the biggest thing I would ask you to do during the time while you've got all this free time is seriously look for a book to read. I know in the case of Luke and others that that's something that you do all the time, anyways. But find one and sit down and read it. Something that's challenging, like an actual novel, several hundred pages long. With all this free time that we've been gifted out of this situation, it would be shameful not to use it to try to read something. What have you been reading, Luke? Give us a suggestion here. Hey, there's time to binge watch TV and read a book. We've got plenty of free time. Trails of Apollo. Book suggestion of the week from Luke. Maybe we'll make that a weekly feature on here as long as this has to keep going. We'll get a book suggestion from Luke and others that like to read a lot. Because he'll probably finish multiple books between now and the next time we stream. Trials of Apollo. J. Park series. I'm not familiar with that one. Christian, I have to turn on subtitles because I've got old man hearing now, so I can't hear the TV if I don't have them turned on. So if that counts as reading, then yes, I read every night. Well, maybe that's something that we could look about doing. I mean, I'll even mention it to Miss Nix. Maybe we do like a virtual book club. We try to find something that everybody can get their hands on and we read it together and then maybe do something like this and get together and talk about it. That would be fun and academic. Come on, Christian, you can learn Japanese. It's easy, right? It's not easy. Most people that when they try to learn English actually say that learning our American version of English is the most difficult foreign language to learn. But to me, Japanese, Chinese looks pretty difficult on my end. Layla is verifying that it's not easy. Yep, our language is extremely difficult because of all the slang and colloquialisms that we use, and we conjugate words in weird ways. But again, to us, it's what we've always known, so it seems like it's the right way to do things. But yeah, people that come to our country say it's a very difficult language to learn. Well, good for you. That's some real life learning that's taking place then if you're teaching your grandmother how to speak English. That's a good metaphor for what English is. Maybe metaphor. I'm not sure if that's right, but yeah, it is kind of like five languages in a trench coat. I guess since it used, yeah, metaphor. I don't know. You put me on the spot with language arts stuff. I don't know if that's right or not, but either way, I like the analogy. We'll go with that. Have you guys enjoyed doing the meme creation assignments for Miss Nix? I thought those were brilliant as far as on her end assigning it and some of the stuff you guys turned in. It seems like something that would be fun to do. Journaling daily is awesome. Yeah, you should do that. All the stuff that we have to think about right now in the world, I would want to write down my thoughts every day if I could as well. I usually just kind of like voice it to my wife who has to listen, but writing it down might be more productive. So does she give you the option then? You can do either the daily journal or the meme? They both serve the same purpose. So, I mean, you're basically just getting a chance to express your thoughts and feelings and kind of vent. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that's how that worked. Like I say, I really liked that assignment idea when she shared it with me. And I know most of you are really into memes as well. Oh, wow. If those are your three choices, then I think I know which one I would not be doing. Yeah, you mentioned poems. I think poetry was actually the only thing that was left for the year in language arts that still needed to be covered. So, kind of getting some of that taken care of here in this weird time. I actually like poetry. It's sometimes difficult to read, but I like reading good poetry. All right, well, guys, it's coming up on the 45-minute mark. I stayed a couple extra minutes just because had some good stuff we were talking about, but I've got a truck that needs to be washed and a dog that will probably need to be washed soon after that. So unless you guys have any further questions you want me to answer, I'm going to go ahead and cut us off here in the next minute. I don't necessarily plan on doing two chats next week, but I think I will try to do at least one, just kind of check in on everybody and see what's up. Again, you won't have any assignments that will be given to you in either class, so enjoy the extra free time. You know, find a good book to read. Maybe use Luke's suggestion. But I'll check in with you at some point next week, and stay safe and stay inside as much as you can. And hopefully, we'll get to see each other face to face here sooner rather than later. So I don't see any last minute questions. With that being said, until next time, Mr. Ridley out.